Hi everyone, welcome to Life Prepared. Today I'm going to show you another way I prevent food waste, and that's to take things that are given to me and preserving them. So earlier this year, my daughter-in-law was given 7 or 8 2-pound bags of blueberries that had been thawed, and she didn't know what to do with them. So together we made a few preserves and some jelly and things like that. Well, I started to run out of sugar and time, so I put some of them into jars just as blueberries, and I was calling it blueberry topping. Well, I opened some up today because, I wanted some jelly for my toast and thought the topping would work, but quite frankly, it was really kind of bland. So there was no sugar, just a little bit of lemon juice in there and probably not enough. And so I decided I'm going to rescue them and I'm going to turn them into jelly. And I thought maybe I would show you how to do it. Now before I get started, I'm going to put about a half a cup of, this is filtered water, into my pan because I don't want to take any risk at all of scorching these blueberries. And, whoops, sorry. As you can see, I have a new jar. I just popped the lid. It was sealed. And it's just full of blueberries. So I'm going to put these in my pan. And I'm going to start cooking them down so that I can get the juice out of them. I decided I really don't want all the full berries with the peel and everything. So I have two choices here. One is after it's cooked to run it through what's called a food mill, and that takes out skins. I use a lot when I do tomatoes. It takes out the skins and the seeds and pushes the pulp through. Or I can run it through a jelly bag and get really nice clear juice, which is kind of what I'm leaning towards doing anyway. So I found 3 of these jars of berries, and I probably could have made something with them, but they just were not they just weren't interesting for me to eat. So I'm going to, like I said, just make them into something else. I look at every way possible to prevent food waste. I'm going to cook this for a little bit to get it nice and warm. I want all these berries to get good and soft. I'm going to stir it here because I want them to get really, really, really warm, almost to the point of boiling or just at a boil, because I want to strain them. And I want to smash down these berries as much as possible so I can get as much juice out of them. And with that, I'm going to use my potato masher, but it's going to work a lot better once they get, warmer. So I'm going to start mashing them now, and then I'll mash them a little bit later. If I was saving all the pulp, which a lot of times what I do is I take the pulp after I strain it and I put more water in it, and I'll make another batch of jelly and juice, which it does work really well. And once I'm done with the second time, if there's any flavor left in them, I usually add a little bit less and do it again. And if the flavor is gone, well, my animals are going to have a really good treat because I don't add any sugar to them until I'm ready to do the jelly point. And I'm sure they will love a little treat. The chickens and the turkeys and that, and the pigs will be more than happy to clean up anything I have left over. And if they don't eat it, well, it'll go in the composter until spring and it'll become soil. So I'm going to cook this down for a little bit. Oil, and as you can see, it's getting really hot. And now, because I don't want to have any chance of it sticking, I'm going to stir it constantly. I've mashed them many times and it's pretty thick. So I know I'm going to be able to get a second batch out of this. And while I was thinking about it, I had made some apple juice from my leftover apple peels in the fall when I put up some apple butter and apple pie filling and whatever I could think of to make with apples. So I think the next one I'm going to, instead of water, I'm going to add some of my apple juice. So I'll have an apple blueberry. What I'm using with this stuff, look for it on clearance. It's called the, I hope it doesn't have too bad of a glare. I'm getting a glare in here. It's the Ball Real Fruit Low or No Sugar Needed Pectin. That's how I get away with putting very little sugar in my jelly. I really like the natural fruit flavor, and my dad has, he has some issues with his glucose. He actually gets hypoglycemic if he eats too much sugar and gets shaky and doesn't feel good. So I like to make these type of things with as little sugar as possible, since I do gift them a lot. And I'm going to try that, both batches. Well, the apple juice is, obviously has natural sugar in it, more so than the blueberries. But I will add, in this batch, I'm going to add not a lot. I will taste it. I'll start with maybe a half a cup of sugar. If I don't like the taste, then I will add a little bit more. I like it just sweet, just to have some flavor, because I really prefer to have the taste of the blueberries themselves. Why hide it with all that sugar? So, ooh, gotta watch they don't spit on you, because that is hot. But this is about hot enough, since it is spitting on me, that hot juice. I'm going to start ladling this into my jelly bag, and I'll get set up to do that, and I'll show you that. Okay, just for my safety, because this is so incredibly hot, I put my jelly bag down in my sink, because I do not want to try to lift this up over my head or any higher than I have to. And all you have to do at this point is ladle. Like I said, I did wet the bag, and when I washed it really good. So I'm going to ladle all of these berries into this bag. And it's going to have to sit for a couple of hours in order for all that juice to drip out. So when I get to the point where the jelly is looking like it's almost done, I will bring you back again, okay? Okay, I have all the berries in this bag. And let's hope it's not epic failure number 2. But if it is, it's okay. I'll tell you about it. I'm not a YouTube kitchen goddess that does everything right the first time, that's for sure. So it's not dripping as well as I would like. If it doesn't, I don't care. I'll just get out my food mill that I told you about earlier, and I'll puree the stuff out. Either way, I'll still get some really good blueberry flavor. But I'm going to set a timer for about an hour, and we'll see how it goes by then. If there's not enough jelly or juice down in the bottom there, I'll pull out my food mill, and we'll go on to try number 2. Well, that didn't really work the way I wanted it to, and I didn't wait an hour. I just, about a half hour. I really got so little juice out of there. You can see it's still scorching hot. So, change of plans. Let's back you up here a little bit. I am definitely going to use my food mill, and I'll show you how that works, because I know that's going to work. So I am going to, this thing is called a food mill. It's a handy little device I found, again, at the thrift store. Paid, I don't know, $3, $4 for it. Yes, they make really, really fancy ones that are all electric, but I use what I have. So anyway, I'm going to transfer, I don't want to handle this too much, some of this with my scooper duper here back into this thing. And it might be a little noisy, so please forgive me. It does make some kind of weird rattle noises. So if I need to, I'll mute it down. All right, now I'm finally getting some juice. Oopsie. Can you see that? The pulp and everything coming out. Once it gets too full, I have to remove the residue in there, but I'm going to squish out as much of the goody blueberry-ness that I can before I scoop out that part. And that part will go into some apple juice and get boiled up. Depending on how much I get here, I might add a little bit of apple juice to this, because I want to get just more than 1 or 2 jars. I want, I won't get blueberries again for, probably 6 months or more. Not at my cost anyway, so I like to make stuff that I can use. I don't eat toast every day, but I do like some jelly on my toast. That's getting a lot of the stuff out. The pulp's getting a little thick, but there's not a whole lot left in this bag. So I'm gonna, ooh, yummy, got some on my fingers. That means I get to lick my fingers. Of course, before I handle it, don't worry guys, I will wash my hands again, I promise. Alright. Now the only difference doing this is I'm not going to get a super clear jelly. Like if you like a really super clear jelly that you can see through, you won't get it doing this. But if you like one that's full of flavor, this will mash through all that pulp and make it so good. This is how I do applesauce, tomato sauce. The nice thing with this thing is I don't have to peel everything and core it. Well, apples I do chop a little bit, but I don't have to peel it. I can just run it through this thing, and it's a little bit of a workout, but it works. So. Well, I don't think it's getting a whole lot more out of that pulp. So I'm going to scoop some of that out of there and finish this up in a second. Well, I can't think of any other way to do this than to get a little messy, so I don't want to waste any goodness here. I'm going to scrape my bag off into the food mill. Oh my goodness. I'm kind of bummed I wasted some of the juice going into this bag, but I'm gonna, oh boy. I guess I better really wash my hands after this. I'm gonna have purple hands, I bet, by the time I'm done with this. I want that out of there, so. Oh boy. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I'm a little bit purple, see? Yeah. Goodness gracious. Alright, let me rinse my hands off here real quick. I'm going to finish scraping out. See, I didn't get much when I tried to strain it. That's why I quit. Usually, after a half an hour, this thing is about half full. So I'm going to rescue the little bit I got. Well, I can put that right in the pan, I guess. No sense running that through again. I think maybe I... Okay, well, there we go. We got all of our pulp back in here, and it's not as much as I was hoping for, but once I get this ready to make jelly, I will bring you back. Okay, before I get this jelly started, I'm going to get my canner going, and I like to have a second big pan of boiling water here, so I'm going to get that started. The canner already was filled with water, and I'm going to put a good splash of vinegar in here. Keeps the jars from getting discolored. I also put a splash in here because Our water is exceptionally heavy here. It tends so bad it rusts everything. And those are going to be going while I get the the blueberries ready to go. And once I get set up, I will bring you back. But I wanted to show you that because I'm going to boil my jars in here once it comes to a boil, and this is going to take a while to get going. Well, okay, it seems like I'm going to be challenged today because I'm not running all the way into town. It looks like I'm out of sugar except for superfine or powdered sugar, and that's what I'm using. Doesn't say I can't. I've used it in the past. I've used brown sugar, but I don't think brown sugar is going to taste good with this. So I'm going to start with, according to the recipe, you don't have to put any, but I'm going to start with half a cup because it's really fine. I'm going to stir that in really well. I'm going to taste it and see how it tastes. If anything, it'll make a nice syrup or a frosting if I add enough. As a matter of fact, it would be really, really good on scones. Oh, yummy. Well, I gotta mix out the lumps here. Now, I did measure out that I have 3 cups of the pulp, just about even. Might have had just a smidge more. And I'm going to stir this, and these lumps should melt in here okay. I have the heat on, not too high, more higher than I need it, so I'm going to turn that down a bit. I want to taste this and see if I'm going to be happy with the flavor before it gets so hot I burn my mouth. So I'm going to get a clean spoon here. Okay, let's taste you. And I'm going to add just a little bit more. It really doesn't have much flavor. I don't know if it was because they were frozen, but alright, we're going to go with 1 cup of powdered sugar. And that's all I'm going to add because I don't want too much after that. Usually I think powdered sugar is like, because it's so fluffy, it's 2 to 1. So if I wanted a half a cup of regular sugar, I would add 1 cup of powdered sugar. And, you know, if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me in that, but that's what I've always done for baking anyway. I make a lot of, I used to do a lot of decorating of cakes and such, wedding cakes, and if I had run out of sugar, I could substitute it. And the other way around, if you need powdered sugar and you don't, you know, it's nothing critical, you can take regular sugar and buzz it in the food processor or a blender or a Ninja, whatever, and make that super fine. Now, let me try this one more time. Get another spoon. Tend to make myself a whole lot of wash here. Try this without getting it on me. There you go. Now it has some flavor without being ridiculously sweet. So I'm going to bring this to a boil here. Now, if you've never made jelly before, you can add just a dab of butter to the top, and it really keeps it from foaming up and getting kind of, you know, foamy on the surface. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's just something I've always done, and I don't add a whole lot. If it starts foaming up, I don't have any trouble scooping it off, and I don't waste it. I put it on jelly or pancakes or something because it tastes good. It just doesn't look pretty, I guess, in your jar. But I'm not all about looks anyway. I'm about flavor. Okay, I did change over to a spoon because I'm so worried about this burning. Can you hear? It's starting to get really thickened up in there. I'm almost to the rolling boil that I can't stir down. it'll start rising up in the pan. So don't ever get one that's really close to the top. You want lots of room, because jelly can boil over if you're not super careful. And that's part of that rolling boil. You'll see it start rising up in the pan. So I'm going to just stir this constantly for the next minute or so until it's ready. Now I did not add my lemon juice yet. I'm going to do that right at the very end and stir it in. It won't matter. It doesn't have to boil because this is so hot that it will be plenty warm. And then I'm going to water bath it anyway. So my jars are on to boil. I didn't show you that yet. And I have the rings in. Now the new lids they have, they say you don't have to boil like we used to. And I know a lot of people have been having a lot of lid failures. Oh, there it goes. There's my rolling boil. See it? So I'm going to give myself about a minute of stirring. And once I get to that point, I'm going to quickly add in my lemon juice and finish boiling it for a few seconds. It looks like it's been pretty close to a minute. And to be honest, I'd rather go slightly over than slightly under. The worst that'll happen is the jelly's a little more firm and not spread quite as easy, but that's okay. I don't mind. As long as the flavor's there, that's the most important part. So, alright, we have our jelly done. My jars are starting to boil, so I'm going to get the next area set up so I can start putting these in the jars for you. Okay, I tried to get you the best view I can. I have my jar lifter here. Whoops, goes this way. And my lid lifter. Now, you know what? I'm old school. I am going to put my lids in just for a couple minutes because I just can't believe that you don't need to anymore. But I'm not going to boil them like we used to for like 15 minutes. So I'm going to get my jars out here. As you can see, they're nice and steaming hot. And, you know, even there might be a little water in the bottom, but it pretty much evaporates really darn quick. So if you're worried about it, you could turn them upside down, but I don't want to get my the rims dirty. So, and I'm turning off that boiling water in the back because I don't want my lids to boil. So it says I'm going to have 3 cups. I always do at least 1 extra jar. And I actually have another one on standby in case I need to sterilize it. And I put my funnels, here it is. I wish I could find my other funnel, but this is the one I could find today. So the next thing I need to do, one more important tool I need, and this is the one I use. It's a, measures my 1/4 inch. This has a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, here 3/8 and 5/8 and all that. It's actually used for sewing, but it's the only one I usually find. When you put jelly in the jar, you want to go to a 1/4 inch from to the rim, according to the recipe. So I did not need to skim off any foam. I don't care. I just stir it back in. It doesn't bother me. And I'm going to go a little less. This does hold a cup, but I definitely don't want to overfill my jars because I'm messy enough. I'd rather add a little bit more by the tablespoon. Fill up these jars to where I think it's about a 1/4 inch, and I will adjust that in a minute because I'll measure it. Okay. Now I'm going to grab a spoon because I'm getting too low in there. And I can bring them up to level. It's kind of funny. It looks kind of a little bit like prune juice. Well, you know, in the old days, they used to add food color to it, and I just don't care. And it looks like I'm going to have a little extra that I can eat. Maybe I'll make some pancakes or something. Scones. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. Make some lemon scones and put some blueberry syrup on it. Or blueberry jelly, I should say. Doesn't that sound good? All right, I got to bring these jars up to level. I'm usually really good at eyeballing it, so, but I still will measure to make sure I get the first one up just right, and then I know where the other ones need to be. So where's my little measure? Oh, a little shy. It's better to be a little shy than too much because you don't want them to overflow. That's good. Another tiny bit there. It goes actually pretty close to the rim, as you can see. Now that extra jar, if I don't have enough to fill these other two, that's where it comes from. And then that jar goes straight in the refrigerator. Well, after it cools, I should say. I don't put anything that hot in the refrigerator. Okay. So I got a little more than 3 jars here. If I had any of the half, I have some that are like quarter size. They only hold 4 ounces. But I used those for my ghee I made not too long ago, and they're full. So I could have put that in that other jar there. Let's give you a quick measure. Yep, you're good. You could use a tad more. No sense wasting it, right? Can lick out that jar. Got the pan. Sorry, I know it gets a little noisy here, but I am not wasting a drop. I'll let that cool and then I get a taste. Alright, so now the next important step is you must absolutely wipe the rims off. I use vinegar. If you have any residue on your rim at all, your seals will not seal. So be generous in cleaning off your rims. And it does get hot, guys. Be very careful. My hands are used to handling these hot jars. If you grab it down there, it's going to be really hot and it could burn you. So I kind of do it up around the rim. This one obviously is too low. I'm going to let that cool down a bit. I will throw a lid on that, and that's going to go in for breakfast the next couple of weeks. Okay, so now I need my lid. Lid number 2. Lid number 3. And I will still do lid number 4, but I'm not going to use that one because I don't want it to dent down that seal because I can reuse it. I keep a lot of used lids. I put a big X on them so that I know they're not good for canning again. Okay, now you take this. It says finger tight. Fingers. That's it. You don't want to crank it. You want it finger tight. That's going back in the water since I knocked it down. Finger tight. That's been re-sterilized. And if you want to learn how to can, jelly is a good thing to start with, and tomatoes. Tomatoes are excellent to start canning with because there's very little you can do wrong with tomatoes, and they can be water bathed. Water bath canning is, you know, we're losing these skills that our grandparents and that had, and I believe we have to learn to take care of ourselves, and that's why I do these things and practice them. Now they had corn in it. I didn't put an X on it yet, but that's obviously not corn. That's going to go in the refrigerator. Now, let me see if I can get you set up. I'm going to see how my canner, it's a little distance, I apologize. Let's see if we can get you a little bit closer, huh? Here we go. As you can see, it's at a really full boil here. I'm going to lift my jar support up here And I'm going to place my jars. I really prefer to have a full canner, but it is what it is. Sometimes you just got to pull it out if you want to preserve what you got. I guess I could have made a freezer jelly, but I don't have a whole lot of freezer space left. And these are going down in the water, and I have to look and see. They need to be covered by a good inch, which they do not have, and that's why I keep this other clean boiling water on hand. There we go. Got, ooh, sorry. To put a little bit more in there. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Now, once this comes back to a full rolling boil, I'm going to water bath this according to the instructions on the ball jar here for, just to be 100%, process jars for 10 minutes. Adjusting for the altitude, I don't have to worry about that. Turn off the heat, remove the lid, and let stand for 5 minutes. Once I get past that point, I will bring you back. Okay, my timer went off, and I let it sit without the lid on for 5 minutes. I'm going to take my jars out of the canner using my lifter. One thing you do not want to do is to, I got some bits on the top. You don't want to knock that off. You don't want to tip them. So, unfortunately, like I said, our water is really hard here, and it tends to rust everything. And I think it's time I look for a new rack for the bottom of my canner. So, I'm just going to lightly, I'm not even pushing at all. I want to wipe off. It looks like rust on there. I don't want it to make my jars really ugly. So that's it, guys. That's my jelly from blueberry topping gone bad. And I have the little bit cooling in this jar. I will let you know how it tastes, but I have a feeling it's going to work out pretty good. You know what? Looks like it's already thickening up. Oh yeah, let me show you. That's the best part of cooking. It's still warm too. I don't want to touch those. Look at that. And that's going to thicken up even more. And that is going to be really, really good on my toast or pancakes, waffles. I got to taste it, guys. Sorry. Oh yeah. Yep. Much better. That's a good rescue there. Okay, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video, but I did want to mention something. I had not intended on turning this into a full canning video, but I really didn't have anything else to can until next summer, so I'm kind of glad my blueberry went bad. So let me tell you what you need to do, though. One of the most valuable things you can get is a really good canning book. You can see I have used this thing practically to death. And the ball is considered, I guess if you want to call it, the Bible of canning. I'm trying to see when this one came out. 2006. So I probably bought that sometime around then. And it's still got some really good recipes in there. They have several different books that have a little different recipes depending on the year that it came out. But this is an excellent book on not just water bath canning, but they also have a complete section in the back on pressure canning. So this is worth its weight in gold, in my opinion. I hope you liked my video on, this is the one that's going in the refrigerator, my blueberry topping gone wrong that I turned into a delicious blueberry jam, and how I'm making a double batch out of the waste from what could have been waste. I'm going to make some blueberry apple jelly.